I'm just saying I'm not finished yet. Search for it, swing for it, discover the me that lives in yes. Stand for it, stretch for it. It's my time, imagine my best. Run for it, reach for it, uncover the me that lives in yes. I know, yes I know, there'll be miracles wherever I go. It's not work, it's play. I can make magic today.
Hi everyone, welcome to Senior Nation. I'm your host, Phyllis Ayman, and you are listening to the Source TV Radio Network, WTSN, Washington, D.C. We are indeed a senior nation with 100 plus million adults over the age of 50. And we are here to bring you up-to-date information about successful aging, healthful longevity, and becoming what I call a well-ager, to dignity, respect, quality of life, and quality of care for our parents, our grandparents, and loved ones. We at Senior Nation will be your trusted voice for informed choices, meaningful conversations, and a vibrant life at every age. Though the Source TV Radio Network is known for its dedication to bringing the highest level of jazz content to the viewing and listening audience, the owners of the network are also dedicated to bringing this important content to this fast-growing demographic, and I'm always grateful for the opportunity. And now for this week's show, which is featuring a reel by Elderly Roots that brings up a point of view about the aging journey that is definitely worthy of discussion, presenting different lifestyle choices and points of view that may sound controversial to some. It contends that staying home after the age of 70 may be the best thing that no one tells you. It may be a wise, empowering, and intentional lifestyle choice for some well-agers, as venturing out and travel may become more physically demanding and stressful. But does staying connected with the outside world through social media and technology provide the same social connections that counteract loneliness and isolation? Though it may not be for everyone, for some, this may be a legitimate, rewarding, and fulfilling lifestyle choice. And joining me for the discussion tonight is my friend Ken Ashby, songwriter for Senior Nation's theme song and fellow songwriter for our song titled For the Good of One. Ken Ashby has spent more than 3 decades bringing an innovative collaborative voice to issues, causes, and brands across the public and private sectors as an entrepreneur, business strategist, executive producer, coach, author, speaker, and trainer. Ken is an award-winning singer-songwriter and music producer. He's published more than 200 songs, performed internationally for millions, earning an Ivor Novello Award for the UK chart-topping television theme song. Ken brings emotional clarity, melodic strength, and a collaborative spirit to everything he creates. So I'm thrilled that my friend Ken can join me for the conversation this evening.
That was long.
Yeah, that was. There was more.
I need to talk to my team and say, we got to cut that down a little bit.
Well, Ken, that was a mouthful. That was a real mouthful.
Hi, Phyllis. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I am great. Tell me again what you said in the beginning about the number of people in the U.S. over the age. What was it again? 100
million people over the age of 50 now in the United States. And according to my, the last statistics that I saw, and 10,000 people every day turning 65 between now and 2030, I believe it is. And between now and 2034. And the 65 and over population is supposed to overtake the 18 and under population. Now, I believe it is by 2030. I hope my numbers are correct.
Wow. Well, that's, I was just going to say that obviously you're not in that category, but I am.
Oh, well, very funny. How politically correct can you be, right? We're actually
Absolutely.
a
Phyllis,
few,
you bring youth in
right.
everything you do. You bring a young idea.
That's
So
very
anyway, we're having fun with each other a little bit.
we're actually only a few years apart, right? Actually, funny thing is, I'm up in Granville, New York, as it says. I'm up here for several weeks on a professional assignment, and I had to open a bank account up here because my bank isn't anywhere in this area. So I obviously needed to open a bank account. So I went there yesterday, and the person with whom I spoke, the bank, I think he's the manager, asked me if I wanted to order checks because people don't use checks so much anymore. But I thought it might be a good idea to, have some. And so he said, well, they're free over the age of 60. I said, well, I more than qualify. I'm 73. He said, no, that can't be. I said, no, you're looking at my driver's license. He said, no, I don't think so. I said, no, I really am. So
I agree with him.
that's really cool. But anyway, you had a chance to watch this video, and I thought you'd be a great person to share this conversation with about it. Not only because you're in that age demographic, but because you have this whole worldly point of view with your songwriting, and I thought it would be great. So we'll show part of the video, have a conversation. Then if we want to show the rest of it, we could do that too, because it's about 13 minutes long, I think. But it's rather interesting. So let's hope we could bring it up and start and look at elderly roots and see what they have to say about staying home after the age of 70. Well, neither one of us are doing that, by the way. So we don't really fall into that category, right?
Absolutely.
There comes a moment in life, often after the age of 70, when you wake up one morning and feel a quiet shift inside. Nothing dramatic has happened. There is no pain or fear, yet something feels different. The world outside no longer pulls you the way it once did. The noise feels louder. The pace feels faster. And staying home suddenly feels more comforting than going out. If this feeling sounds familiar, you are not alone. And more importantly, there is nothing wrong with you. Many people reach this stage and quietly wonder if they are changing in the wrong way. They may think they are slowing down too much or becoming less interested in life. But this shift is not a problem. It is wisdom. After 70, life stops asking how much you can do and starts asking how deeply you can live. Peace begins to matter more than motion. Comfort matters more than speed, and presence matters more than performance. When you were younger, life required constant movement. You had responsibilities. You had people depending on you. You had goals to chase and deadlines to meet. You learned how to push through tiredness and show up even when you had little energy left. You learned to live in a world that rewarded being busy. And you did that well. You gave decades of your life to work, family, and survival. But now, in this stage of life, you do not need to prove anything anymore. You have already done enough. After 70, staying home becomes less about avoiding the world and more about choosing yourself. The outside world has changed. It is louder now. It moves faster. Even simple outings can feel draining. Crowded spaces take more energy. Conversations feel rushed. Errands that once felt easy now take more effort. This is not because you are weak. It is because your awareness has grown. You feel more deeply what your body and mind need. At home, something different happens. Your body relaxes. Your breathing slows down. Your nervous system finally feels safe. You are not watching traffic. You are not adjusting to noise. You are not trying to keep up.
You can move at your own pace. You can sit without feeling rushed. You can rest without feeling guilty. Your home becomes a place where your system can finally settle. Number 1. The world feels louder because your awareness is sharper. Many older adults notice that the outside world feels overwhelming, not because they cannot handle it, but because they no longer want to fight against it. After 70, you become more sensitive to stress. Your body notices things faster. Noise drains you quicker. Crowds feel heavier. This is not a flaw. It is a sign that your body is asking for gentleness. Staying home allows you to listen to that request instead of ignoring it. Number 2. Home gives your energy a chance to recover. When you are younger, energy feels endless. You can give it away and still wake up with more. But later in life, energy becomes precious. Every outing has a cost. Every commitment takes something from you. Staying home allows you to protect what you have. It allows you to spend your energy on what truly matters, instead of wasting it on things that leave you exhausted. This is not selfish. It is intelligent care. There is also something deeply comforting about familiar spaces. The chair that fits your body just right. The way the light enters the room in the morning. The quiet sounds you recognize. These small details calm the body in ways people often overlook. Familiarity tells your nervous system that it is safe. And when the body feels safe, it can rest. It can heal. It can breathe. Staying home also gives you freedom from constant expectations. You do not have to be anywhere at a certain time. You do not have to impress anyone. You do not have to explain why you are tired. You are allowed to exist without performing. This kind of freedom becomes incredibly important later in life. It restores dignity. It allows you to live in alignment with who you are now, not who you were decades ago. Many people feel quiet pressure from others to stay busy at all costs. Friends or family may say it is good to keep going out or to stay active all the time. Often, they mean well. But staying home does not mean giving up. It means choosing peace. It means listening to your body. It means respecting the life you have lived and the life you are still living. In the next part, we will talk about why solitude is not the same as loneliness, how guilt often shows up after 70, and how staying home can actually bring emotional healing and deeper peace. If you stay with me, then write why yes below. As life becomes quieter after 70, many people begin to fear one thing more than anything else: loneliness. Society often tells us that being alone means something is wrong. But this is one of the biggest misunderstandings of later life. Being alone is not the same as being lonely. Loneliness feels empty and painful. Solitude feels full and peaceful. Staying home gives you the chance to experience solitude in its healthiest form. Number 3. Solitude brings you back to yourself. For much of life, your attention was focused outward. You listened to others. You solved problems. You carried responsibility. There was little time to sit quietly and hear your own thoughts. After 70, solitude becomes a gift. In quiet moments at home, you begin to hear your inner voice again. Memories come back gently. Feelings surface slowly. This is not something to fear. This is how the heart softens. This is how a person becomes whole. There is deep healing that happens in stillness. Over the years, many emotions were set aside because there was no time to deal with them. Grief, disappointment, regret, even joy that was never fully felt. At home, these emotions finally have space, not to overwhelm you, but to be acknowledged. When feelings are seen, they lose their power. When they are ignored, they linger. Staying home gives your heart permission to rest and release what it has been holding for years. Number 4. Letting go of guilt is part of healthy aging. Many older adults carry guilt for
Okay. I think that gave us a good idea of a substance for a conversation about all of this. Um, you know, obviously I've watched this several times. I don't know, I'm interested in your response, obviously, because that's why I wanted you here, but I don't necessarily agree with it. So I'm very interested to hear your point of view, and maybe a little later we'll actually bring in Mel from the station, because I know his point of view and it is a little different, and we could have quite a spirited conversation. But I wanted us to have a little bit of a conversation first. What was your reaction?
Well,
when you
I
watched it?
mean, it's very soothing, very friendly, very heart-centered sort of feeling the way it's presented. I was a little taken aback when we talked about this earlier, that talking about, okay, stay home, stay home, stay home. And yet all the video was about all the places we all want to go see. And
And they're beautiful, and why
out in
would
the world.
right,
But,
exactly.
you can watch those at home on your video, on your, in your cable too, with TV. But, many of the thoughts, many of the thoughts is what I think I would say both and.
Right.
It's not just one or the other. If you need to be out of the public, or out of, because of one reason or another, absolutely take the time to do that. I think that's great advice. And just sort of not cherry picking, but just kind of some of the things that that I say, again, both and, they say you've done enough. Well, maybe that's true for some people, and I respect that and say everything, And when you ask me if I could write a song for you for this particular show, one of those things I talked about was you're not done.
Right.
If you feel like it,
Right.
explore, follow what's in your heart that says yes. So use that as a way to get out. But obviously, as again, both and, yes, if you're ill, or you're sick, or you are just tired, or just feel run down, of course, we all get that way. And the body is aging. Our bodies are aging. Can't stop that. That's going to keep happening, period. I think for me, what I try to stay with most of the time is keep learning. Just
Right.
keep learning something new. And even with my body, keep doing things that I like to do. But again, everybody's different. Everybody has different circumstances. So that's first take. So I'll let you jump in here.
Yeah, no, it certainly doesn't apply to me. I've said this many times. I feel like I'm just beginning. I'm beginning new endeavors. I mean, you and I collaborated on this song. Well, it was really based on a poem that I wrote, that it was inspired by these books that I wrote, that are this subject of this film that I'm working on. I mean, I started this new show. I feel like I'm on a whole new road. I can't imagine, that way of thinking or feeling. I mean, are there days I'm more tired? Absolutely. I raised a family. I was a single parent for many years after my divorce. Of course, you're doing things and running and, engaged with your children and your family. And yes, there is that part where you come to the end of that road, so to speak, and say, oh, phew, thank goodness, right? But for me, I think it leaves room for other things. So for me, I think it's maybe a more introspective time, maybe it's about becoming wiser, more in touch with yourself, possibly, maybe not for everybody either. But that's my take on it. And like you said, I saw these beautiful places and I said, well, that's kind of a contradiction in terms, although it was soothing and beautiful. And I get the purpose that served. But when I watched it the first time and then again, I just said, it doesn't apply to me. So I don't think it's a universal message for everyone. So I agree with you there.
Yeah, I think there are great takeaways from this. You spoke about, at least in that part of the video. The video was talked about loneliness, and being alone is not the same thing as loneliness. Totally agree with that. And in fact, some people can be in a crowd and be lonely.
Absolutely.
So loneliness is not necessarily tied to where you are. Loneliness is tied to who you are and who you're being for yourself.
Right.
That's where we all like to have time that we can focus on one thing and in some ways, have that alone time. And yes, everybody needs to, no matter what age you are, right. When you wake up in the morning, there's a chance that many people wake up in the morning, grab their phone, start scrolling down, then try to pick their breakfast, and then what am I going to wear? And it's like headbanging rock music going
constant,
boom, boom, boom.
Right.
So when my wife and business partner and I, we coach a lot of folks, and one of the things we say is pay attention to how you start your morning. Just pay attention. Do you start with that kind of banging feel, or can you take time to be with yourself, not alone, not lonely, but be with yourself in the morning to just, whatever it means for you, have some peaceful music, think about what you're grateful for.
Right.
So that's just one of the areas where I think there's both and it could be, depends on how you take it.
Right. So Penny says the video is, I think she meant missing. Is that what she meant? So much, and it is true. Many choose a single long-term lifestyle without family or children. It is a lifestyle choice and doesn't need a transition at all. And there are hundreds of thousands, maybe millions that never transition after 70. We just continue. For others, it is a time to finally have some alone time, right? To reflect on a life worth living. You should not be saying you don't agree. You need to broaden your perspective. Okay, yeah. Well, but I'm saying for me, it didn't agree with me is what I'm saying for what works for me. So that's what I meant when I didn't agree with it. I didn't agree with it for myself because I don't see myself, like I said, I see myself as kind of just beginning. Yes, obviously everybody has different lifestyle choices. I was just talking to somebody at work today, and he was saying that he and longtime girlfriend, they're talking about marriage, and they're making a decision probably not to have children, and that's a choice. And we talked about why they're making that decision. But I think that the concept of, okay, you get married, you have children, you're the white picket fence, that really doesn't apply anymore. There are many choices that we can have, and people make very different ones, for a variety of reasons, as you say, for a variety of reasons.
And I think Penny's right in many ways as well. And thank you, Penny, for sharing that. One of the other aspects he talked about was freedom from expectations.
Right.
Freedom from expectations. So again, I'm not sure the motivation where this comes from their standpoint, but I would say from my standpoint, it's more for me about aligning my expectations. Right. And making sure if I have an expectation of someone else, do they know it?
Right.
Or if someone has an expectation of me, do I know it? So in the realm of expectations, I think we get to align those expectations so that there's an agreement. One of the things we've always said is, expectations without agreement is premeditated resentment.
Yes, right.
And So I agree with this. I don't know about being free from expectations, because even if you're by yourself, I don't know if you're sure you saw the movie Castaway,
Right.
even if you're by yourself, you have expectations of yourself. We
Right.
wake up every morning with our own expectations of me.
Right.
So I think there's just another way to look at it. And I celebrate them saying, I think they're right on with who you are now.
Right. I also believe that everyone's perspective is their own reality and their own truth. So, like I think that's what I was saying when I say I don't agree. I don't agree with it for myself, where I think the video is just making this blanket statement of after 70, this is what it is. And I'm 73, and I don't see it that way. It doesn't apply to me at all.
Yeah, it's there's something, there's sort of this feeling that comes to this of separating yourself, of pulling back and being alone. And as I said earlier, if that's what you need, absolutely. If
Right.
that's what's calling you to pull away. But I think the idea of integrating versus separating is always a better approach. It seems to me that sometimes when we fall into the most problems is when you notice someone is trying to separate you, they're doing it primarily for power, to gain
Interesting.
power. Separated you, I can now gain power over this, as opposed to integrating you and engaging, that's a little different approach. I'm not sure if that's what they were intending. I'm not saying they were, and nor am I putting down this group, because I've seen a lot of their videos,
Right.
beautiful videos, warming, comforting. You feel like you're in a great blanket,
Right. Right.
a warm
Absolutely.
blanket.
But it's almost like they're surrounding you with with comforting thoughts, and the videos are on many different topics, and I think the way they present them, some of the topics, like you say, they're difficult topics, but they are presenting them in a very warm, comforting way.
Mhm.
It's not like just reading an article. It's not somebody saying do this, not that. It's very embracing. I agree with you there. So maybe at this point we should watch the rest of the video, and then maybe Mel will join us, and we'll have I know he has a very different perspective, and I think it would be great for the conversation. So, but until then, Janet says, I chose a lifestyle based on career, and I come from a very small, dispersed family. I have a wonderful, active work life. I have been an independent consultant. I have friends all over the country, and we have had 50-year virtual relationships by phone and now through FaceTime. We never see each other. I am always at home, never lonely, and very happy. On occasion, I do see a friend, but typically they come to me, and that works. I was just talking, like I said, with this fellow today. We were talking about how people don't talk on the phone so much anymore. Personal contacts aren't the same, and I was saying that if I have meetings with people, I prefer to do them by Zoom or StreamYard, whatever it is. For me, and I don't know if it's because of my profession as a communication and speech and language pathologist, for me, I gain a lot from seeing a person's face, facial expressions, and you can see a lot from a person's face. But when I was talking with this fellow today, I was also saying that, being in a personal space with somebody is still different than the connection that you have even by Zoom. But for me, that wouldn't work. And it's not that it wouldn't work so much. I think for me, I think there's still a place for having social connections with people, in a personal space. I find that I think that's something that's fulfilling for me or something that I need. And like I said, I don't know if it's just personality wise or if it's also because of my profession as a communications person. So I don't know. What's your feeling about that, Ken?
Well, Janet, I acknowledge Janet for having that great connection with so many people all over the place. And the truth of the matter is that Zoom saves gas.
Good point, Mel.
It
I
does
mean,
save gas. And I've been involved in some life-changing Zoom experiences,
mhm.
conversations, not watching a video, but
Right.
being in action and conversation with someone like we are today. So yeah, it's a great new option for us to have. And for some people, it could be a lifeline. And I sort of agree with you too that it's so much easier than getting on an airplane.
Right. So Janet says, you're making this about you, and the video is just the opposite, and you are not exploring it. Ken is trying. Okay, well, maybe. Okay.
So
Ken's great. Ken is great. But we're also, yes, it was my takeaway, and that's why I wanted Ken to join me, because I knew I have a particular takeaway from it, and that's why I wanted to have a conversation with someone who could bring a different point of view to the conversation. Originally, when we talked about this, Mel, the owner of the station, talked about me just doing it on my own. And I thought about it, and I didn't think that was such a good idea, because I shouldn't just have my own point of view as a takeaway. And that's why I thought it was so great that you could join me. And that's why I do want Mel to join the conversation, because I know he actually has a point of view similar to Janet's about his connections by phone and his relationships that way. And like I said, it works for different people in many different ways.
As Mel is joining or whatever, I would just say that also one of the other points that is brought up in the video is hearing your inner voice. I mean, we all need to listen to what's deep inside us. The opposite of that is hearing all those voices in your head that just
Right.
drive you crazy, and going over and over and over things that you've gone over and over and over for 20 years. The same stories, the same videos. So that's why I encourage, yes, be at home if that's where you need to be, if that's the best spot for you, but keep learning, keep trying new things. And I suggest people eliminate "I can't do that" from your vocabulary, in the sense, some things there may be physically you can't do, but keep your mind open, keep your mind flexible. As I'm looking at these videos and saying, okay, great, there's some good ideas in here, there's some good things, and just reframing. One of the things we do with the R Factor work and our book was all about respect, responsibility, reframing, and resilience. And all of those do start to move in a certain direction with age. Being responsible for someone my age, 78, and is different maybe than being responsible for someone who's 15 or 20. It's a different kind of responsibility, but still we get to hear our voices and we get to touch that aspect of our existence and what we bring. So thank you, Janet, for jumping in there.
What I will say about the video is that, and one of the reasons that I wanted to play the video was that it did bring up this way of thinking, and yes, it does give people permission. Some people who do feel, they have to keep going, they have to keep doing, and maybe there is a pressure for that, not only within themselves, but it is true. One thing it says in the video about there are people who say, you should be out and doing things. I mean, it says all the time. I don't know if it's necessarily all the time, but I've heard people say that, that, oh, their family or friends tells them they have to be out doing things and whatever, and they don't feel they want to anymore. So I think in a way the video does serve that purpose in giving people, when I say permission, because I think in the beginning when he says there is nothing wrong with you, that people need to have that kind of permission, because there is pressure from family and friends to get out and to get out and do things and be involved. And I'm kind of hesitating because there is a lot to be said about people who maybe don't have access to what Janet has access to, videos, friends in many different places. And there is something, there is a level of truth to the fact that when people, if they aren't engaged, that loneliness or isolation does contribute to cognitive decline. It does contribute to depression as people get older. So I think there is also that consideration, that is important. So Mel is asking,
Go ahead.
so
I
I'm
was
just
going to say one of the things that you just mentioned, and as I was listening to you, you said, I have to go here, I have to go there, I have to be there. For me, what I've learned for me is anytime I have to do something, it's a pain. So I've just stopped saying it and listened to myself instead of saying I have to do something, and say I get to. And sometimes when I change the idea to I get to, it reframes the whole idea of what I'm doing. I tell you what, being able to get to see my grandchildren, it's not something I have to do, but I get to see my grandchildren. And I would say that most times, if you see videos of an older person with a younger person who they have a relationship, you're going to see smiles from that older person.
Absolutely.
So I believe that connection versus disconnection is very valuable to our heart, very valuable to our coexistence, very valuable to our health in many ways.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think we did find during the whole COVID situation that, when Janet brought up about, Zoom and friends around the world and talking, the importance of that connection, and that served a great purpose and filled a great void. And I think it actually goes to Janet's point about how important that is to be. I mean, she's happy and that's great. It does contribute to happiness, whether it's with friends, with grandchildren, and, with the help of technology now, it's really, terrific that we can do that. So if you can't, even if you're physically limited or for some other reason limited, maybe financially, there's always a way to have connections. And that really serves a very important purpose to your well-being, to your psychological and to your emotional well-being, and to your physical health.
Yeah, most human beings want to be connected. This is a bedrock for humans. We love community, and Elderly Roots is providing community. It sounds like, I don't know, but if they're providing community, wow, that's fabulous. That's something that everybody needs, and every human being, most every human being, I would say, deserves to be connected. There's Mel.
There's Mel. Thanks, Mel. So I referred to you several times in the conversation. You and I had a very spirited conversation about this video. So, I think that listeners and viewers and Ken would be interested to hear, what your thinking and feelings were about it.
Well, I'm going to take a totally different approach here. I want to make a statement first. All analysis is subjective. Even in quantum physics, they know when you look at matter reacts differently than when it's not observed. So every interpretation is subjective. Secondly, We go back to the Greeks with the idea that man is a social animal. That is subjective. Look at the world around us and look at the chaos and conflict. I'm not sure you can make the argument that people are fundamentally social. People are fundamentally very different things. And I think what we get into is we start to impose cultural values on people, and that creates their loneliness. If they're told a family is the fundamental social unit, then when they're in a nursing home or they're in an assisted living home or they're living alone somewhere, they feel that loss because they've been conditioned to believe that that is the fundamental social unit. The fundamental social unit is the individual. What separates us from other animals is choice. We have cognitive capability to make choices, and those choices don't always align with popular culture. I'll give you an example. The fastest growing family unit today are single family households. That's the fastest growing social unit. You can't deny it and say those people are going to be more lonely because they don't engage in family. A lot of people have to relocate many times in a career now. They don't have the fundamental opportunity that perhaps generations ago, which I don't think is historically true anyway, that people lived in a community for a long period of time and built, excuse me, and built fundamental community relationships. It's harder today. People have 10 different careers, which is typical, and they relocate frequently. Even if you go back to, let me just finish, Phyllis. If you go back to the 1700s and you look at mobility, people traveled 20 miles away from where they lived. That was a 2-day ride. And they relocated. Now, when you look at the community, you say, well, they live in the same community, they're only 20 miles apart. No, that was the same thing as somebody living in China now and somebody living here, because there were no communication possibilities that we have today. So I really think there's a fundamental problem here. We create loneliness by creating a model that excludes people who don't fundamentally fit models that we establish culturally. And there are so many people, I'm going to use myself as an example.
Right.
I
wanted you to get to that, which is, I'm glad you're getting to that.
I've taught online as a faculty person in graduate school. I've been also a consultant to small businesses. For the past 50 years, I've worked at a computer at home. I hardly went on a college campus. I did occasionally. I had a meeting or something, but more and more I taught online. I became completely adjusted to the great indoors. Let me put it that way. And this is kind of interesting because in my 20s, when I was in graduate school, a friend of mine and I wrote a column for Newsday, a Long Island newspaper, and it was called The Great Indoors. We would talk about the value of not being outdoors and not being subject to the vicissitudes of crime and dissolution, of community. I can't hold myself out and say my lifestyle is right. I'm just saying that we make people lonely. They don't make themselves lonely. They feel lonely because we impose models on them that are really very hard to avoid. And then you carry that guilt into when you pass 70. Gee, I don't feel like going to see people. That makes me a bad person. No, it doesn't. And that's what the video is trying to say. And I think that the video is very important. It's giving voice to a vast growing population that doesn't have family or children or grandchildren, that may have a dispersed family, that may have had a work lifestyle. Look, you saw what happened since COVID. So many people are working from home.
Right.
They don't even go to an office anymore. So, we have to stop imposing, if you're alone, you're going to be lonely. That's just not true. And, I have an intellectual life. I write for the New York Times. I have this radio station. I belong to another partnership. We provide music festivals to cities. And yet I've done it all from home. I haven't visited my partners in my music festival business, I've never met live once.
So what I was going to say is what you're saying really fits in what Ken was saying about expectation. That the expectation, the pressure of societal expectation is what is different from an expectation for yourself. And what your expectation for yourself is, and I don't use I've been getting away from the word should, maybe the best approach for the expectation for yourself is what's best for you.
But I think you're right. But I think, look, you're very active. A lot of my friends that I never see, but we see virtually, we see each other like we're engaged right now very often. They travel all over. My point is, I think these models go back to 200 BC and to the Greeks, that man is a social animal and family is a fundamental social unit. And that's a value judgment. It is not objective fact. And, so right away it precluded anybody from being an individual. Then you get to when you get to Rousseau and Walden Pond, he's talking about being an individual, getting away from society.
Right.
So I'm just saying that we pick and choose what we are comfortable with and then make other people feel uncomfortable with that judgment.
With our choice, because we're putting our expectation on them, right? And not allowing them the freedom to have the expectation of what they want for themselves. And like I said, every person's perspective is their own reality. And if they could respect that, and other people can respect that, then this video is kind of what this video is saying, in my opinion. What do you think, Ken?
But just finish what you were saying. You think the video is saying, Phyllis? Oh.
Yes.
Oh, you think the video is saying what?
I said that allowing you to have your own expectation for yourself, right? That your perception is your reality, and your expectation for yourself, respect that and don't put that on another person. So the video, I think, is giving, I don't want to say permission, agency. I'll use the word agency, giving the person agency to make that decision for what's best for them.
So yes, absolutely. And Mel, everything you were talking about is so right on. I mean, we talked about expectations a little bit. You have partners that you work with. You have clear expectations. They don't expect you to be out on the road. You don't expect them to be in your living room, although they are in Zoom or whatever. So this is the thing about expectations, is there gets to be alignment and agreement. If it's just with yourself, I'm making an expectation of myself that I'm going to finish this book, and I only finished 100 pages. So am I letting myself down in that expectation? No, I made some progress, so I get to redefine it. So making sure that the expectations you have of others and of yourself are agreed to, and everybody's happy. If my kids expect me to be out playing basketball every day, that's not an expectation I would like to agree to, but it's not an expectation that's going to happen because I have different physical situations. So I think, Mel, you're right, and we're making subjective judgments all the time. Yeah,
and Ken, just to take what you're saying one step further, the notion that people are either social or antisocial, most people are asocial. They can take it or leave it. It just depends on the situation. I could be at a party where I feel alone.
Correct. Correct.
Yeah. I mean, so I think we have to rethink what values we place on the individual, the family, and society. We have to rethink it and understand it's much more fluid. And we, everybody likes to think there's an end. The old 30-minute sitcom where everything is fixed and managed in 30 minutes, and everybody has a happy resolution. Life doesn't work that way. That's why it's television.
Right.
Life is sloppy. Life is very sloppy, and getting through the day, and we're very limited. This is the other problem too. When you really look at what we do every day, I get up every day. I have typically the same juice to drink. I make tea almost every day. I start my work day. I go to my desk. I take a break at a certain time. We're very routinized, but the amount of things we do are so few. There's so few, and we do them over and over again every day with some slight variations, So I think the idea that we're much more complex than we really are is also a myth. We're very limited in our capacity.
Well, and I use that all the time, that we're very routinized people, but I want to go to something you just said about going to a party and feeling alone. So I've experienced professionally, and I've talked about this for many years, and there are different forms of living, and they are actually called living environments. They're not called long-term care or nursing homes. They are actually called living environments. And why is that? Because I have seen, and I'm sure other people have seen, somebody who's moved into one of these places, long-term care environments, nursing homes, and people feel alone, yet they're surrounded by people. So is that better than sitting home by yourself? I'm not saying it is.
Yeah.
Sitting
No,
home
I know.
by yourself and being in a comfortable surrounding, like the video is saying, where things are familiar and you have peace and calm, or moving into some place where you're surrounded by people that you don't know, unfamiliar surroundings, and yet you still feel alone.
I agree, and I read voraciously. I'm engaged with more people every day than almost anybody else. Because I'm engaged with the people I'm reading, and just to quote Woody Allen, to Marcel Proust, there goes another novel, and that's my day. I engage with people all day long, but I don't have to physically be present with them. I don't have to surround myself necessarily with family. And again, it's not that my choice is the right choice. It's just a choice.
So I just want to add something to that. Mel and I have never met in person.
Yeah, exactly.
Ken and I have met in person just a few times, but Mel and I have never met in person. And I would venture to say, I'm speaking for myself, but I would venture to say that we've become quite good friends.
That's very presumptuous of you. Yes, we have.
It's being presumptuous, right?
Yes, we have.
No, but I think we've become quite good friends on many different levels. We have this, whether it's this show or on personal levels, and we've spoken. There are times when we've spoken to each other several times a day. There are times when we don't have that opportunity, and when we reconnect, I mean, it's. I look forward to it, actually. Oh, I shouldn't have said that. I don't want to.
No, Phyllis, you're just making my point.
Right, exactly.
I just wanted to add one thing here that what I think Elderly Roots is onto, and what I think they're doing, which is valuable, is we are in a evolution.
Mm-hmm.
Evolution and revolution.
Yeah.
And I say that because, the statistics and the numbers you gave in the beginning, but I go back to a career that I had. I've always been a songwriter, but I've done other things while I'm doing that. And one of them is I was a stockbroker. And so when I was a stockbroker, one of the first things you're taught as a stockbroker, one of the first things is that everything depends on the baby boomers. Baby boomers controlled new schools that were being built after World War II. All the schools, many of them until recently, are the same schools that our parents went to and their parents went. They're this. All of that has grown up. That the diaper business was not effective until after World War II when the baby boomers. So throughout life, the stock market has followed the baby boomers, what the baby boomers are interested in. So now we're reaching a point where we're coming back around. The baby boomers are interested in peace, interested in a little more coziness or whatever it is. So
Solitude,
whatever the solution is, it
Right.
is an evolution in our society of, and maybe we're just talking about, Mel, maybe we're just talking about here in the US, but because World War II maybe affected us more in some ways in that respect. But I do think it's a revolution and an evolution. And there are a lot of people who are looking for ways to tap into what's happening now, where the baby boomers are.
Right.
You know, it's funny because I was a stockbroker also, and I was taught somewhat differently. I was taught the firm makes money, the broker makes money, and maybe someday the client will make money.
Exactly. It's like that line from the movie Shakespeare in Love, where he says, "Well, you just share the money with. We can't pay the actors. Well, just give them a percentage. There is no profits, you know." Okay, fine. Let's move on.
You know, another comment you made, Ken, I think is true. Globally, modernization takes place differentially. Right now, China is going through an industrial revolution. So why do they have so many consumers? Because they had nothing, you know. And in 30 years, 25 years, they come from an agrarian society into an industrial society. So that economy is growing rapidly because of industrialization. We're post-industrial. We're a service organization, and we have a president that's trying to bring us back to being an industrial nation. It's over. That's not where we are, and that's not where we ever can be again. We're a service economy. And so, that affects jobs. It affects, education. It affects so many things. And family. Look, I've been to China a few times, and Confucianism and family was fundamental.
Correct.
Also ancestry, revering ancestors. It's going and gone because the people who have the most money that work in the factories are kids from 18 to 22 years of age. They control the family wealth. The parents still make money from the state, which is minimal compared to what they make in factories. So, they're going through a major transition and a major change in the family. And I guess this is part of my point. I think you mentioned it. We have to understand evolution. It doesn't stop. It doesn't wait for us. And, it's either adapt or perish. You don't have a choice. And I think that's what I'm trying to point out. We're at a much different place now we were in 2020, pre-pandemic,
Correct.
Post-pandemic, and we're in a much different place we were in 1960. So the nuclear family is, it's not the only form of family.
Right. Like I said, that American quote unquote dream, get married, have kids, house, picket fence, that's gone. That's gone. Yeah. Now, it may still work for some people. It may be what they're striving for, but it doesn't work for everyone anymore. And there are a lot more opportunities and choices than that. Even, not even in terms of, sexual choice. I mean, there's just a lot more opportunities for
my dad.
Not getting into that discussion, I'm just saying. Yeah,
my dad used to tell me, well, back in the old days, I could buy a pair of shoes for $2. I said, yeah, but you made 10 cents an hour.
Right.
So what's changed?
Right. It's all relative. Well, it is. So, I just think this has been terrific. What are your parting words, Ken, before I move on to talk about next week?
Well, I think that Elder Roots is tapping into that whole idea of, what the evolution is right now. They're tapping into it. And I think you are, Phyllis, with this, and you and Mel with this program, Senior Nation, you're tapping into those discussions and conversations. I think they're very valuable, and keep them up.
Okay, well, go ahead.
I'd like to mention that just in the article I read today in the Times, there's a new robot. It looks like a lamp. And they're experimenting. They've given away 1 million of these. It's manufactured in Israel. It's a very high tech AI, and it's trained to accompany people that are over 65 that are alone, and it's trained to comfort them and talk with them in ways that they want to talk and they want to feel. And it's becoming, who would have thought? But the people that have been using it, they say that their happiness has increased dramatically.
So that's connection in a way, but a different kind of connection.
That's right.
So
That's
just
right.
what we're saying about evolution, things are evolving. It doesn't have to be the what we thought as the traditional way, whether it's family, person to person, video, whatever. Now it's moving to an even different level. So I thought this was great, and I'm so glad that you joined me, Ken, for this conversation, and you will be joining me again in 2 weeks because we're going to continue this conversation in a different direction. So I'm so glad you'll be able to be with me in 2 weeks again. But
Pleasure.
it was really terrific, and your insights and your input are always very valuable.
Pleasure. And I just wanted to let you know that I'm actually AI. I'm not actually and it's a new version. So I just wanted to make sure that there'll be stats on it.
I love it. I love it, Ken. That was terrific. So, so thanks. And so now I'm going to turn to next week's show. So next week, for next week, I have Devin Harris. So Devin Harris, he was born, I want to tell you a little bit about his background because it's really quite something. He was born on Christmas Day in 1964, and he was raised in a violent ghetto environment in Kingston, Jamaica. The greatest gift Devin Harris ever received, he says, was the belief that a positive attitude and a never say die philosophy would carry him further than a sense of injustice and a heart filled with anger. He graduated from the prestigious Royal Military Academy in Sandhurst in England. He received a Queen's Commission in December 1985 and served in the Officer Corps of the Jamaica Defense Force until 1992, when he retired as a captain. Devin was selected to the first Jamaican bobsled team, which competed in the 1988 Olympic Games in Calgary, Canada. And their exploits inspired the Disney blockbuster movie Cool Runnings. He also competed in and was captain of the 1992 Winter Olympic Games in Albertville, France, and the 1998 Games in Nagano, Japan. He's also author of the motivational children's book, Yes, I Can, and a semi-autobiographical book, Keep On Pushing, Hot Lessons from Cool Runnings. Devin has been inducted as an Olympian for life by the World Olympian Association for his significant contribution to society. So I met Devin at an event in March 2024. His motivational speech, based on his philosophy and foundation, Keep On Pushing, was really an inspiration to me. And I asked him to join me for a conversation on Senior Nation because I thought it would be apropos after tonight's conversation. So remember to tune in, comment, and ask questions next Wednesday, February 25th at 7 p.m. Eastern Time on the Source TV Radio Network. And until then, take care, stay well, and stay tuned.
Go for it. I'm just saying I'm not finished yet. Search for it, swing for it. Discover the me that lives in yes. Stand for it, stretch for it. It's my time, imagine my best. Run for it, reach for it. Uncover the me that lives in yes. I know, yes I know.